They're the ones who gave me cabs right outside the boys' locker.
Okay.
Right on the corner.
All right.
From my hair.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we got the stuff.
All right, good evening, everyone. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, missed the pledge, but we won't make you stand up for it. Oh, they did? Okay, thank you. Alrighty, I need a motion to approve the agenda for the business meeting of tonight, February 9th, 2026.
Holly, Eric,
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, we have the open forum. The Greenville Central School District wishes to facilitate public access to meetings of the Board of Education and to provide an opportunity for the public comment at these meetings. Accordingly, the open forum provides an opportunity for members of the public to share thoughts about topics on the agenda, and individuals' comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. Additionally, comments may be emailed to the district clerk, Daphne Pearson, using the email pearsond@greenvillecentralschooldistrict.org. In order for an email to be read during the meeting, it must be received by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting and state that the email is to be read out loud. Emails shall be limited to 600 words. Please note that this is not the time to register complaints that need to be addressed confidentially through the proper channels. Remarks that might be considered defamatory, obscene, profane, stigmatizing, or otherwise impermissible in public forums are prohibited and will be declared out of order. Board members actively listen during open forum, but may not immediately respond to comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Do we have any emails?
we do not.
Okay. And before we go into the presentations, I just wanted a quick second and just to recognize the passing of an individual, Ann Mitchell, who actually spent 18 years on the board at Greenville. And many people familiar with the person, a wonderful individual who cared deeply about education here at Greenville and providing every student with the opportunity to excel. So I want just to remember her and honor her for her dedicated service. Yes?
Tracy, that's what I was going to talk about right when we got started. A couple months ago, we talked about policy with displaying of the flag. And I don't know if it requires a motion, but I'll put a motion forward that we lower the flag and honor man in that regard.
Do we need a motion, or it is a policy? It does allow us to do it. So I think procedurally, well, we have a motion. If anyone would like to second it, I think it's a wonderful idea. Okay. Did you want to add anything? Okay, no, you're just trying to. Hi James. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to turn it over to the presentation. So the senior class trip proposal, we have the class advisors, Alexis Aloisi and Danielle Overbaum, and members of the class of 2026. So, who is going to be presenting? Come on down. We don't fight. You probably want to take, if you're sitting at the table, whichever one is easiest for you. If you are, then just take the microphone, or if you're all at the podium, whichever. And the microphone is less for our need, it's more for the recording. solidarity is a good thing.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education and Superintendent Bennett. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present these senior trip proposals to you. I'm Julia Reinhardt, the current senior class president. I'm here tonight on behalf of my class, the class of 2026. This journey to plan our senior trip did not start this year. It actually started during our freshman year. Back then, we made a collective commitment to hard work and fundraise aggressively so that we could afford a memorable prom and a truly significant senior trip. When it came time to decide where to go, the class voted by a large majority for a destination trip, something further away and more impactful than an overnight or a standard day trip. We are here today to propose some of those visions. I'd like to start with our most supported idea so far, a Royal Caribbean cruise to Bermuda departing from New Jersey. We feel strongly about the specific trip because for many of our classmates, this represents a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Because of the group rates and the grants we've secured, many students will be able to travel to another country for a price they may never see again in their adult lives. We want to create the opportunity for students in the senior class to explore a new part of the world and a new culture in their own way. To make this happen, we've planned a streamlined itinerary. Students will take a bus to Poughkeepsie or Hudson to catch a train to the port in New Jersey. I'm excited to share that we have a GEF grant pending that will fully cover the train transportation, lowering the overall cost for individual families. Once on board, the trip is entirely all-inclusive. All meals, drinks, and gratuities are all covered, ensuring no student needs to worry about having extra money to pay for meals and outings in hopes of removing yet another barrier for families. This is also an educational venture. Each student will participate in 2 excursions while on the cruise, which are included in the price, with options ranging from a Crystal Cave discovery, a shipwreck tour, local art tours, and glass bottom cruises. We hope our final act as a class can be one of cultural exploration. Finally, I want to address the worry and priority of many families and students, which is safety. Once arriving on the ship, students will pass their metal detectors and their bags will be x-rayed by security teams who will confiscate prohibited items such as weapons, alcohol, things of the sort. Students will be housed 4 in a room, each with their own individual bed. Furthermore, Royal Caribbean uses C-Pass card systems. We have ensured that each student's card will be flagged to strictly prohibit gambling and alcohol. Additionally, the trip is accessible, requiring only a passport or a government-issued ID for travel. Just as a comparison for new board members, last year's senior class had their trip to Boston for 2 nights, and it ended up totaling $899, which is why our trip offers a greater return on your investment with a trip to Bermuda for 5 nights at only $982. The class of 2026 has put in the work since freshman year to make this dream a reality. We ask for your approval to give our seniors an experience that celebrates our hard work and opens our eyes to the world beyond our school walls. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have some questions. I'm not sure if it's geared this way or that way on insurances and where we stand with that as a district. Do those things apply? Does this trip actually fall under the school district? Is it something that's being done separately? Curious, general thoughts.
I don't know, I'm going to refer it, I'm looking at you guys, so.
Generally, the insurance is carried by the trip itself. We'd have to take a look and see to what point, what level our insurance policy covers the trip.
So that's what I was thinking, at least that would be when you book one of these trips, it's usually on a per person basis. So that reduces our liability or exposure.
Correct.
A little easier to go for something like that.
Yep.
I don't think so.
Wait, one question, so are you working through a travel agent, or how is this happening?
So in contact so far, we've been with a Royal Caribbean coordinator directly through Royal Caribbean, who's helped us with room blocking and pricing and things of that sort.
But then would Royal Caribbean have insurance?
Yeah, it's within the pricing of the cruise.
Okay, so we would need to see the insurance coverage sent over to the advisor could send that over, because we'd have to double check and send that out to our insurance just to make sure that coverage is adequate and that a supplemental rider isn't required. All right, go ahead, Kelly.
So starting point would be, how many students do you anticipate? Are people signed up for this? Have parents committed to the trip already? And how many kids are kind of being left out? How many are in your class? Is anybody left out of this, or will it be like scholarshiping, that kind of thing?
Yep, so right now, the trip is priced at 45 students and 5 chaperones. The blocking we have so far does accommodate for more students than that. And financially wise, our class is worked on you get money off your trip based on how much you participated in class fundraisers, so the more effort you put into the class, the more money you get off your trip. That's kind of the system we're working off of right now.
Okay, so that price is based on 45 students and 5 chaperones. What happens if you don't get to the 45 students, or you have more? Does the price change?
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. If you don't get the 45 students, then what happens?
The price remains the same for each student.
There's more.
And you have that in writing?
If there's more, it goes down.
I'm assuming if there's more, you just can't. You're capped at 45, right?
We have, in the blocking they gave us, we do have additional rooms just in case we have extra students who want to attend the trip.
Okay. And do you have firm commitments from the students? Do you have firm commitments from 45 students that are going to pay $982 tomorrow and provide credit cards?
No, not yet. Like we said, the class voted for this trip to be presented to the board, and we would send out that form with those commitments once it got approved.
Okay, all right.
The chaperones, are you guys paying for them?
Yep, so each of the 5 chaperone fees is within each student's ticket, so they're all priced between each student.
What kind of turnaround time do you need to know? What would you need an approval by for that to meet your obligations with the packages?
We would prefer to have a decision by today, just so we can move forward with these, but if it does need to extend until the next meeting on the 23rd, we'd be okay with that.
I don't think tonight is reasonable since we just raised the questions of insurance.
Is there possible to do a vote pending with a caveat?
I'm not comfortable with it because that is a huge exposure. That if something happens, what are they going to point fingers at? We have to do our due diligence on it. I had a question related to, it says we don't need any passports, but we need the enhanced driver's license. You don't need it?
You just need a government ID, so either a permit, driver's license, or a non-driver ID provided by the DMV. And we did put a poll out to students, and there wasn't one student who got back to us who said they had an issue continuing to have one.
Okay, so then some type of identification is not an issue.
Correct.
So it's really not the enhanced, because you have to have the enhanced in order to get onto a plane, so.
No,
in order-
because it's going to Bermuda, because technically the ship is still considered the United States, traveling out of Jersey all the way to Bermuda and back, and it's only one port. It's still considered the United States, so you do not need an enhanced driver's license. We definitely made sure, because we didn't want that to be an issue for any student.
Okay, all right. Any other questions?
Yep, I have a question. How many kids are in your senior class?
It's 91 or 92, it keeps changing.
Between 81 and 82.
No, 91.
Oh, 91 and 92.
You need to introduce yourself to 10 more kids.
Yeah.
You are the president, right? Let's assume, I do appreciate your idea of gauging the money by how much effort they put in to do the fundraising. If 45 kids go, that's 50% of the kids are not going, right? And so what's the plan for those folks to enjoy some kind of senior trip?
Based on class meetings, what we've gathered from a lot of students is those who aren't looking to go on a senior trip have already booked their own trips. So students have already allocated their own money for their own trips. So around 30%, based on what we polled, are going on their own trips and will not be participating in our collective senior trip.
Of all the money that you've raised, let's say you've raised a tremendous amount of money, right? You're gonna divvy that up. Well, I guess you're not gonna divvy it up evenly, right? Say the president did a tremendous amount of fundraising, so they're gonna get or she's gonna get a bonus. And then it tails off or tails in some direction. And then mom or dad are gonna chip in the rest, right? Or if you have an egg root or a paper root or something like that. I'm wondering, the kids that are not going on this trip and have done fundraising, are they gonna get a portion of their piece of that pie?
It can go towards their cap and gown, or it can go towards something else. But for the most part, anybody who has participated and has been marked the last 3.5 years has said they are participating in this particular trip if this is okay. And we based the 45 because of half based on many, many previous years of trips. Half of the class going is actually a large number. Last year alone, it was about the same size class and only 12 went. So we were being generous and estimating based on what all the kids had voted on.
What parameters, I understand that the key cards won't work on gambling or alcohol. What safety parameters or security measures do you guys have in place for monitoring, whether it's down in the port or on the ship, the kids?
Pertaining to, you mean just keeping an eye on them? I think that would be the same as any other trip. That would be based on breaking the kids into groups with each chaperone.
So they'd have a chaperone with them on the ship at all times?
Yes, yeah. Yep. They'd have to stay in their groups with their chaperones.
But I think that part of the difference is when you go on a cruise and between the alcohol and the bar being available and the gambling, that
I think it's actually less available on the ship because you can sneak it in anywhere else. This one, the bags are actually x-rayed. They go through the bags as well as chaperones. We have to search the bags before they get on the bus, the school bus, to go to the train, to go there. But once they get to the ship, they're actually x-rayed. And they have airport level security that goes through your bags. So it's actually safer as far as alcohol, gambling, being available to run into a liquor store, being able, it's actually safer than any other trip if you were going to, per se, Boston.
that's going onto the cruise, which I recognize. Now, I'm not saying that any of you would even conceive of any of that,
No,
right?
yeah, that's
Absolutely.
right.
However, once they're on the ship, and part of that security reason is they don't want people bringing alcohol on it because it eats into their profits.
Yeah.
Right, so, you know, but then the environment on the cruise then between, I think there's a casino on there, and then the bar, then we're putting you guys into an environment that I'm not quite sure is optimal. I have some issues with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, I did specifically ask these questions to the group coordinator, and they said they have a lot of they do this all the time for high schools. They said it's actually preferable for a lot of classes to go because the casino is a completely separate part. Like, you can't even get near the door when they scan your card, and they're gonna look at these kids and be like, absolutely not, you're not old enough to even come into the area. It's not like it's an open forum, it's a completely separate entrance and go in. As far as the bar, it's the same thing. They aren't allowed in the restaurants where they have that available. There's different family restaurants. It was on their slideshow, which ones they are actually available to have. They also have room service that comes to their room 24/7. That was another part where like they each have a card and it has to be scanned anywhere you go. You order macaroni and cheese, they're gonna scan it for your room. You order anything by the pool, it's gonna be scanned to your room. So they don't even have the availability because they'll be flagged immediately saying, no, they're on a school trip, they're under 21, this is not allowed. And as far as like the alcohol before, I know you were saying in between the ship, that's responsible for all the chaperones to go through, which is at any trip, they always tell us, like I've seen, like the chaperone stop before you get on the bus, we search the bags, load the bus, then you can go. And there's no point in between because it's, we talked with Mary Judicus, as long as we have a school bus not during trip times, they can drive us to Poughkeepsie, and that's included because of the short distance. Then we get on there in Poughkeepsie on the train, that takes you right to the port and right to the ship.
Any other questions?
Do you know what size ship this is? How many other passengers will be on it?
It's Liberty of the Seas. It's one of their, they said one of their largest ones, but I'm not sure how many people.
So there's gonna be 4,000 or 5,000 other people on this boat, right? Any of your folks, parents gonna go with you on this trip? Do you know? No parents are gonna go?
I mean, I'm a parent of one of the seniors at that
Do
house.
you know how many chaperones you're gonna have?
Right now, with our 45 students, there will be 5 chaperones.
5 chaperones.
So you guys require 1 per 10 kids. We're overestimating a little bit. It will have to be required as high school faculty, is what's required for chaperones for the high school kid. We do also have the SRO pending being a chaperone. And we do have other parents there. I know you asked about that. We do have other parents there in support of us in the class for this trip. If you have any questions.
Other questions?
One last question, I guess. You said everything's going to be done by a card, so is there any reason to bring cash on this?
Only if when you get off the boat, if you want to buy like a souvenir, but
Everything on the boat is by card.
yes, because everything we're already paid for. There's no reason for them to buy anything on the boat. They're more than welcome to bring their own cash and cards, which at this age, 17 and 18, they're all pretty equipped with per phone or anything. But no, there's no required cash or extra monies for them to bring with them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one more, I think I'll leave you one after that, but I can't promise the rest of them will. In terms of it being open to the whole senior class, some of them deciding not to go, and certainly I'm looking at most of those faces saying this isn't the issue for you guys, but is there any school requirements, this is probably just for you, in terms of discipline or grades, or is this truly open to every person in the senior class?
No, it's completely open. That has no, I've never heard of grades being like a cutoff for why somebody wouldn't be allowed. I don't personally see that as a requirement for this particular item with our class. I don't feel like that would be fair.
It was more the discipline, I was like,
Oh, like if they're under disciplinary measures, I believe that would then be left up to our high school principal and our superintendent. I don't feel like I have.
but there's nothing in place right now in that aspect.
Like if they're under disciplinary action that they wouldn't be allowed? No, because I wasn't aware of that ever being a previous issue. That could be something that could be discussed.
And I had a question. What would happen if one of the students stepped out of line? You're in the middle of the ocean. Can't send them back to Greenville.
I think the same as you would with any other trip. Yeah.
Say that again.
I think the same as you would with any other trip. I think that's kind of
Another trip, they're,
let's say like last year's trip to Boston. They took a coach bus there. They were there for 2 days and then they took a coach bus home. It's not like you could have a taxi go home. I'm just going based off of what I know from previous years. I honestly have not had any disciplinary issues in 3.5 years with any of these students, and we've done a lot of things on and off campuses. So I'm hoping that that will not be an issue. We have a pretty good class, so I don't see that being an issue. I've never really had any issues amongst the students fighting or squabbles or anything like that, with even that coming up. I feel like also on a ship this size, we can't break students down into groups that would be able to be cohesive with each other, then we have a large problem. With 17 and 18-year-olds who we require a lot of already.
I think as part of that insurance, you also need to add in the medical emergency, because if someone needs to be medevaced or something like that, just because they are outside, and do all students then have, are they required to excuse me, on medical insurance.
No, so you don't need medical insurance. They do have to do the field trip form that we require with all the meds on it. The medical history paper that the nurse goes through, and then she reviews all that. And then on the boat, they actually have a doctors and nurses. So they actually have like almost like a mini hospital on every ship.
Right, okay. We would need the additional medical rider. I'm sure you absolutely
Yeah,
have to
personal
have
experience on
that.
a cruise ship. I'd like to know what the insurance covers that they're talking to you guys about, or what we would cover, because it is extremely expensive to use that on board. So I just want to know what we have covered.
Okay. I can totally get that from the group.
Any other questions? I mean, I think it's a fabulous idea. Do you guys have a backup plan?
I think they do. I have one other question though.
Go ahead.
That trip, have you researched the excursion, and you guys are making one excursion, one island stop? Is that the case? And what island is that?
The cruise will be stopping in Bermuda.
Right, okay. So I know in other Caribbean trips, there to some other islands that are not as favorable to safety. But I think Bermuda's, from what I understand, has been a little bit of a safer bet. It's its own thing. They have a pretty solid, I think as far as overall security in that spot, I heard it was much safer. I know some people that have been on that trip, so they said it was a little bit different than some of the Bahamas, say, and things like that. So I think that's a good thing. I don't know if you had any other thoughts on that. So
Yeah,
many people
we
feel
actually eliminated the Bahamas because the travel agent had actually suggested, as far as high school trips, this was their most favorable one. It's port to port. We're not island hopping. We're not taking them on a bus to go see some local something at an island. They're staying right where the ship goes. The excursions, actually, they put some up there that are like a shipwreck tour. Some are walking, some are snorkeling, depending on like what kids are comfortable with. But the price actually includes 2 excursions per student and adult, because those were added in there. So because the adults will have to be with the kids. But it gives them various different ways to see the island, but all within where Royal Caribbean stays.
Also, is there an educational component to it? Because I know, like last year, they went to Boston, you know, or they go to different spots. Might be something comparable.
Yeah, so 2 of the excursions we include are an art tour, which is historical. You can see the art of Bermuda, and similar things like a shipwreck tour, very historical. You get to learn about the history of the boat that crashed there, and some of the cave discoveries are also very scientific.
Any other questions? Right.
No, I think I did a good job. And one thing they're gonna learn is that Bermuda's not in the Caribbean. It's in the Atlantic Ocean.
It's a little colder. What is the timing on this? What month would you be going?
When would you go?
The end of May to early June, that last week of May into June.
It's May 30th to June 4th.
So we avoid AP testing, IB testing, and Regents on the other end.
Okay, that's technically hurricane season?
No, they actually, the rainy season for there is September and October.
I think, because I've traveled down there, hurricane season, I could be speaking out of line,
I even
June
doubled-
1st.
Yeah, I checked it today. They actually said this is the prime time to go to Bermuda is April through June, or April through July, I should say.
Okay, can we just check that, please? I would hate for the cruise to be stuck in a hurricane. Do you have a backup?
There is a backup of a 2-day to 1 overnight. It would end up being only 36 hours in Philadelphia. We did offer that because it was brought to our attention by somebody else who suggested having a backup for students who would go. I will say when we did price this out, we actually priced out several. This is the one who ended up being like mid-range, not $1,500, not this, not a couple $100. This was the cheapest one we could do. And when we put out another vote, the amount of students committed to going this dropped exponentially. We did not get a lot saying they wanted to go on this trip, but I said we will offer it if the cruise was voted favorably.
And assuming that all of you standing there are in favor of the first trip, and from judging those faces right there, not so in favor of the second trip.
But we did price several out. We actually priced Savannah, Atlanta, Texas, and I'm sorry, there was another one that is, Chicago, through an educational trip. They were all inclusive. They were all only 2 days and then overnight, and they were all running at like $14.50.
So how have previous years, how have they done it? If it sounds like that all these cities or towns are just not affordable, like what has changed in what year, 1 year? I'm not, like, there's something I'm not
Inflation.
understanding.
Inflation, incredibly, a lot of the restaurants, like even pricing out food was insane how much it costs to price out food for them. But what we did with this cruise ship, a big thing that we eliminated was a coach bus. So being able to take with Mary providing the school bus and then a train, hopefully covered by a GEF grant, and then also an additional, because these have educational elements, another educational grant we're applying for to go towards each student going. Eliminating those coach buses took a huge weight off of the price. Coach buses alone, they told us starting at $5,000 each way, and that was only for 50 people. So if I had 50 students sign up and I still had to put chaperones on, that's 10 grand minimum and 2 buses that I have to price out.
For 2 days only, correct?
For 2 days only. So that was where a huge chunk of this came from. Also, some of those we were pricing flights, and even out of the city, opposed to Albany it's very expensive right now.
For flights that
Well, like Chicago, Savannah.
Okay.
Texas, yeah. Going to Philadelphia, we would have to take a coach bus. We also priced out, one of the students requested Ithaca Falls. So we priced out anything that was brought to us by the students. Ithaca Falls required the buses. We only priced for 1 bus because that also didn't seem to be a big hit with the kids with boating. But that's where we got a minimum price of starting at $5,000, not including gratuity. And they said it would go by mileage with gas, it would go up from there.
So what does FFA do? Have you spoken to their advisors
They
and
also
how
do the same
they?
thing, yeah.
Okay.
That, they also use the school bus system. Yeah, they use about the same thing, it's the coach buses. Even when we go to New York City, when we went 2 years ago for the Bronx Zoo, it was the same thing, they started at 5 each.
Right, for that.
I particularly went with the brown bus because that's what our school has used in previous years.
Can you also send me, can I see I guess a floor plan? I'd like to really understand the layout of the cruise.
It's called Liberty of the Seas, it's on Royal Caribbean.
And can you give it to me, please? I'm not gonna go and look for it. Yeah, I don't wanna be difficult, but I've got we have some questions, I think, and so let's go through them systematically so we can get some answers. That's all. You know, to say Royal Caribbean, I think there are different ships. And so I don't want to pull the wrong thing and make decisions based on one thing and then find out that the information is incorrect.
Right, that's why.
So that's where I would really appreciate it. If you can give me the information for that, then it just helps to just eliminate possibilities of just incorrect information. So get us the insurance policy, find out about the medical insurance, we also need that. Okay.
They have to go back to
And,
practice.
I'm sorry?
They have to go back to practice.
Oh, I
You're
figured
wondering why
they
we
again. And then, what other questions or other information that's needed?
Are you looking into like what the parents think?
I have no idea who's speaking.
I'm over there.
Can you stand up,
Like,
please?
Panel for all the parents and like maybe take a vote. and-
Can you just come over here if you're part of?
Yeah, we had asked at the start if
Yeah.
parents had had any involvement in this, so.
As parents and our children are about to go out into the world, mine are 18. I know probably a majority of them are 18. Like maybe put each package together of all the different trips, send an email out to all the parents. This is what we have on the table. Take our votes for it. These are our kids. Like I understand this is a school trip, but these are also our children. And I want their senior trip to be unforgettable. This could be the last time they're all together, It's bittersweet.
That's
They're going
what
off into the real world, and they're all gonna be on their own soon anyway.
I appreciate that.
You know?
And mine have just come through, so I understand.
Yeah.
We were asking them if parents had had any input in this. From our perspective, we have to make the decision based on the liability of the district and so on. It's up to them and the advisors to talk to the parents and
Right,
get the
that's what I mean,
approvals.
like, why don't you send out a mass email to all the parents to get the input? You know?
Right, so the advisors could absolutely do that and strengthen their case.
Right.
And say that all of the parents, after surveying them, are on board. That is probably really good to do. Yeah.
Can you just come, I'm sorry, we need your name for the.
Jennifer.
Jennifer Hiller. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Jennifer LaFleur.
You want me to spell it?
She's got it.
Got it.
I think it sounds very exciting. There are some questions that we have that we need to kind of be able to wrap our heads around for that. We will not be able to give you a decision tonight, so the sooner you can give us the information, then that'll help.
And we know we sound like a bunch of parents grilling you. Where are you going? Who are you going? We have.
Well, good job putting
diligence
together
to
what
you guys.
sounds like the first trip kids want to go on.
Is-
So excellent work.
If they are able to get us that data, those pieces of info, is it possible to, because we have a couple different meetings this month, is it possible to put that on one of those agendas instead of marches? If that's helpful for them?
Well, why don't we get all the information, then we can assess how quickly we can have this discussion and continue it.
Sounds good.
I think that it came through that you're looking for an answer sooner rather than later. I think the one learning moving forward is that it's always helpful, have preliminary discussions. And so that if we had had this discussion in November, we could have said, oh, here are the 3 things we're absolutely going to need before we can make a decision. And this will be helpful for that, so that's all.
Just noted for that, we actually started this in July of last year, and we did go through the policy, like the stations, like we took it to our building principal, we okayed it, then we took it to our superintendent, and we've actually had, I think it was 4 trips before this that already were not okayed, so then this trip is like on top of that. So they have been working on trips in the process of what is in the policy since July.
Okay, but the policy simply says that it has to have an educational component.
Well,
You checked that box. I think that you made your case and so forth.
So, yeah, I'm just saying, like you said, come to them in November, they did, but they only made it as, like, in the steps process, that's why they're just coming to you now. With this trip is because then this trip is what made it past those last steps, yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I'd just like to say, I appreciate you guys taking the opportunity and having the courage to come before us. I hope you're appreciative of the fact that we have reservations, to say the least, for multiple reasons. You have to understand. I hope you can understand our perspective. I mean, we have the whole community wondering about almost all of our decisions. So, and I hope you understand that this is different. This trip will be different. So anything different means it's a difficult path to follow. So whichever way it goes, you know, if you have a backup plan or if this goes forward, you know, I appreciate your efforts anyway.
All right, I'm going to move us on to discussion. We have the board retreat, and I'm going to turn it over to Kelly Kubicki to talk about board retreat.
So just wanted to share with the community kind of an update for board members and Superintendent Bennett. gathered, oh gosh, it's been a couple weeks now, but we were here for several hours on an evening in late January. We brought in a consultant from the New York State School Board Association, Mark Schneider, and we spent about 4 hours working with him, answering questions from board members, but also working through some ideas for how to work on transparency, work on communication, both among the board, but also with the community. I think it was a really good working session. I think that we were able to all gain some perspectives from each other and get to know each other a little bit better, and where we're all coming from and where we want to go. I think it was an evening well spent and overdue. And yeah, I mean, some stuff came out of it that we're going to work on, and as we start to bring some of those things forward, maybe we'll see some changes that hopefully are for the better. And I think that's about it.
Any other comments, particularly some of, every couple of years we go through and do have these retreats. Anything else that anyone would like to add into it? I thought it was very productive. Kind of my feedback. I really appreciate everyone's honesty and sharing of information. I think that is essential for all of us learning how we work together. We all have different perspectives on everything, and it's really by coming together and sharing that really ends up with the best results. So I thank everyone for going in and having an open mind and sharing kind of what was in your heart. All right, then let's see. Committee reports. My name is on it, but I don't have to give it this time. So we have the district facilities. Eric, you're going to provide that update. And then we have the DLT, the district level teams, and Kelly, I have your name for that. So who would like to go first? All right, Eric, go for it.
All right, so where we are with the district facilities, I got an email that they were canceling it on me. So, and I can understand why. Basically, as far as where we are with the meetings and so forth, there was no new information. And instead of wasting everyone's time, it was give the time back. So there was no meeting. Maybe next time.
Can you
I was
maybe
going to
just,
say we'll put you on next month.
Erin, could you just share for the community what the facilities committees overall, like what are you charged with? What is your task?
So I would say that the planning that goes into the community as far as like large projects and so forth, keeping track of what part of facilities get updated. I know there's an update that a report for a 5-year plan and a 30-year plan. And I think in the facilities also there's a what needs to be done type list that has to be done. So basically things get reviewed with the faculty, community members, and administration as to where their buildings are and the facilities in general, and what projects we're going to take on next and where we are with our projects. Did I do okay?
That was great.
And generally, how often do you meet? Is it like every couple of months?
Depending upon what's going on, like when there's a project going on, you meet more often. Like as the project was going on last, we walked through the art room, and we saw the new building that was extended and so forth, and where things were in the classroom as something the committee would do, and then it would get brought back to the board, and we would see it on our facilities walkthrough. When there's not much going on, it's more paperwork and administrative. Okay, where do we need to make everything equal, equity? Which school gets more money next time, and so forth. So it's during projects every couple of months. When there's not projects, maybe twice, 3 times a year.
And does the committee have a long-range project plan or vision, or like, does it exist?
Yes.
In the committee? Ah, okay. Would you talk a little bit
I think
about
our
that?
superintendent might have it.
I'm sure he absolutely does.
Yes, we're required to have a 5-year building survey done every 5 years to take a look at where we're at. And so with that, we also take a look at where we're at with projects and monies coming off the books in regards to, if you remember correctly, with our last project, we wanted to make sure the timing of that was such that we were not necessarily impacting new tax monies on our community. So taking a look at that as part of the work that we're doing.
And thing I can add into that is, I recall correctly, I think in terms of debt service and so forth, our next big capital project is probably going to happen around 34. It's on 34. So what will happen in the meantime is there'll be small annual projects that will get scoped out, and like if we need a garage lift or something like that, for an example, it would be thrown into the budget for 1 year or whatever it would be one-time cost. But for the most part, the idea is that the big projects all level out the burden that the taxpayers have. So as debt service retires, we bring on new projects.
All right, for the district level team, that is a shared decision-making group. It covers all 3 buildings, so we have representation from faculty and staff and administration, also from parents, a representative from each building, support staff, and I sit on that as the board member. We usually have kind of a task of the year. Last year, we spent the entire year, we meet 4 times a year, although this year we've kind of not met that very much. But we meet a few times a year, and we usually have an overarching task. Last year was the code of conduct update, including dealing with pending cell phone stuff, writing that into it and everything. And that was a lot of work because it hadn't been done in a while. So that's done now. And this year's task is to identify and work on the opportunities that the district offers the students outside of their, what we call like the base education, the requirements from the state. We're calling it like enrichment. It could be everything from our clubs to different activities, some of our, what's the word, classes they don't have to take. Thank you, electives I could not draw. But those kinds of things, what they offer for our kids, the different pathways, things like that. And the reason that that is a task for this year is because of what's coming from New York State with the portrait of a graduate and how that's going to change requirements for the students. So by identifying all of this and working on the idea of enrichment and opportunities, it allows the district to have a really good solid plan in place and to know what we have going forward as we start to have to adjust for that. So we are probably a little overdue for our next meeting, but we do tend to meet a few times a year.
Any questions or anything else about either of those 2 committees? So then the question would be, Eric, we will keep you for next month's meeting, and what other committee then would we be discussing, Daphne? Audit, we could do. When does the audit committee meet next?
So the district level team doesn't meet until March 19th, so we have to have that on the April agenda.
Okay.
And the audit committee meets 3 times a year.
So when's the next one? Well, does it make sense to then, 3 times a year, so when's the next one? Is it in April or
We're talking
twice a year? May or June. All right, so then why don't we just keep then, we'll just have one for the April meeting. We won't have any for March. Does that make sense? Is there any other committee that we have missed? Wellness? How about it? Okay, perfect. And then I'll let everybody know, and it'll be on the next agenda. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. And if anyone has any thoughts or anything else that they want to add, just add in, or a committee that they want to hear about, then send an email. All right, I'm going to turn us over and move us along to the cell phone policy update. So Mike, how's it going?
Yeah, so we were going to originally do this at the last meeting. The report on vaping was kind of overtook that. So I've asked Brian and Christy to come in. And this, again, is part of what we need to end up at the end of the school year, making sure that we have a report that is done at our buildings level. Because eventually what we have to report out on our website is, I haven't seen it from the state yet, but they'll put together a list of things that we have to identify as, how often kids are getting tagged with cell phone issues, and then we have to talk about how we've handled it and put that on our website. So part of that is what Brian and Christy are here to talk about today. Take it away, guys. Thanks.
Okay, good evening. Brian and I are here to share some of the data from the from the distraction-free environment mandate from New York State. Just as a reminder, this mandate states that students must put their personal internet-connected devices, it's a mouthful, away during the school day. This includes lunch, recess, passing time, study halls, all of the above. As you should remember, the board policy states that student internet-connected devices must be out of sight upon arrival, and that means bell to bell, and it doesn't matter if it's a smartphone or not, no phones. So in our code of conduct that Kelly mentioned with our district leadership team, we can kind of come up with the following. We've identified what is considered a personal internet-connected device, as well as consequences for non-compliance. Some of the examples of the personal internet-connected devices are cell phones, flip phones, iPads, MP3 players, iPads, tablets, e-readers, cameras, anything that can take photographs and that connect to the internet, wearables and smartwatches, headphones, headsets, anything that goes in the ear that can connect wirelessly to the internet or a cell phone such as earbuds. And then our consequences are as follows. So the first-time offenders, their device is surrendered to the main office. We have a bunch of extra pouches. We keep them in the extra yonder pouches. It's stored there till the end of the school day. A parent or guardian is notified, and the student can come get their device at the end of the school day. For the second offense, the same thing happens, except there is also a lunch detention that is issued. So a parent is called, device is confiscated, stays with us until the end of the day, student picks it up, they're assigned a lunch detention. For the third offense, it's all of the same items except for a parent or guardian has to come and pick it up this time. Additional consequences can also be imposed, and that could be anywhere from like a behavior contract, loss of certain privileges, and I'll share a couple things that I have done once we get to our data. So that's just a quick little reminder. I'm going to let Brian share out first.
At the middle school level, we've had the following incidents: 12 referrals for offenses with cell phones. I think one was with earbuds. There's been 11 offenders. 10 students have had their first offense, and I've had one student who's had 2. So again, it hasn't been a big issue really at this point. And the thing that I think the honor pouches was a wise decision for us to purchase. It made it very straightforward. So if a student has it out in school, it was like, well, it should have been in the pouch we wanted to build. So it's just, it doesn't really raise that question. Students have been great with it. It hasn't been an argument. Parents have been very supportive, parents and families, almost apologetic that the kid had it out, so it has been worked well. And, I definitely think in the summer we were, it was one of those things where you just didn't know how exactly it would go, but I think overall the students have done a good job with it. I think our teachers have been pleased in the classrooms. They haven't had to deal with the hassle of it. And in my opinion, I think personally, I think the student, they're okay without having it during the day. It's almost like a relief a little bit. And I think it also puts some pressure off of, I know going from elementary to middle school, there's that pressure of, over the years you hear about it of, when does my kid get a cell phone? Well, everyone else has got one now. Now it's kind of like, it doesn't really matter, you don't have to use it during the day. So I think that's maybe helped some families in those decisions too. Questions about the middle school?
So really just the 10 students that had their first offense, and that's since the beginning of September?
Since September, yes. And
That's
one
pretty good.
One
Up
or two.
up at the high school, because I have a feeling
It's a little bit
that's
different.
Yeah.
I just have one question. What is a lunch detention?
So it's Brian, I think, does it a little bit differently, because Brian's group of middle school kids do 20 minutes of recess and 20 minutes of lunch. So you usually take away either lunch or recess? Or full, okay. So he does a little bit of both. So sometimes he takes away lunch, sometimes he takes away recess, sometimes he does both.
They get lunch, they're just not in the
Correct.
lunchroom.
Yes, and so at the high school level, it's the whole 40-minute period, rather than sitting in the cafeteria with your friends. You can either buy your lunch, or if you bring your lunch, you go to a separate location and you eat lunch there. Yes, we never deprive students of food. Okay, so at the high school, it's definitely a little bit different. So we've had the following offenses. So we've had 100, so we write referrals every time that there is a student with a phone out, or internet-connected device. So we've had 130 referrals at the high school level. A majority of those are cell phones. I've had probably at least 2 handfuls of earbuds, a very small handful of watches, maybe like 5, and then 2 iPads. So that's kind of what we're seeing at the high school level. Out of those 130 referrals, there are 86 offenders. There are 4 students that have gotten to the 4th offense, and I'll talk about that in 1 second. I've had 7 students who've reached that 3rd offense, 18 students who've reached the 2nd offense, 57 students where it's their 1st offense. And out of all of those offenders, the 86 offenders, 38 of them have never had a referral before while they were in high school, or if it was a 9th grader, I went and checked to make sure in 8th grade that they didn't have any referrals. So I think a lot of our students are, I shouldn't say are struggling, because there's only 86 kids that have gotten referrals. But I think there are some times too where we need to provide good reminders. I didn't even think after Regents Week, where students had 2 days off, then they had a weekend, then we had a snow day, then we had a 2-hour delay, that was a big change in high school schedules, right? Some students were home for 5 or 6 days and they're used to being on their phone. So what we've planned as part of our cell phone plan is that after every large break, there's a reminder on the announcements, in a Ms. Wilbur's bulletin, just a reminder about the cell phone policy. That was one time that we didn't remind students, and I think some of them forgot, so there was a couple when we came back from Regents break, but I think a majority of our students are doing the right thing. Or it could be there was a couple times where our buses at Ellis were a little bit late getting up to the high school. The bell had rung at 2:45. Students were asked to to hold in their classrooms until the buses had parked in the circle, and so students are pulling out their phones because it's bell to bell and the bell had rung, but you're still in school and technically the school day was not over at that point. So we've had a couple, probably maybe 3 or 4 that where that has been an issue. I want to go back to where I said I had 7 students who reached that 3rd offense. So remember, the 3rd offense is where the parent or guardian has to come and pick it up. And then I've had 4 students who've reached that 4th offense. Again, the parent or guardian had to pick it up not once but twice. I've gotten a little creative with some consequences for those students. So for example, when the students reach that 3rd offense, their parent has to come and pick up their device. Sometimes the parent has picked it up right away. Sometimes the parents have waited a day or 2. I still have 1 student who put a burner phone in his yonder pouch, and it is still in my office. And the parent said, I will get it when I get it. And I said, okay. But after that, I get kind of creative with what kind of consequences to give out. So clearly, if they haven't learned after the 3rd time that their cell phone is coming to me, and now their parent has to come pick it up, what I've done is, okay, now you're going to meet me every morning for the rest of this week or for next week, and we're going to put your phone in the yonder pouch together, and we are going to lock it together just to make sure that it's their actual phone going in there. At times I've had students who know that they have to meet me in the morning. They're like, oh, I already locked my phone up. I'm like, okay, let me see it. And we unlock it real quick. I'm like, well, this doesn't look like your phone that I've taken away twice already. So I know that they've put one of those burner phones in there. I would say, really, where's your phone? Come on, we'll put it in. We put it together. For the students who've gotten, the 4 students that have gotten to that 4th offense, they no longer get to keep their yonder pouch. Now it stays with me. So they lock their phone in there and it stays with me. And again, it's a loss of privilege. Like I give it to 2 or 3 or 1 to 2 weeks, and then they are able to have it in their own, in their pouch on their own. So I've kind of gotten creative, especially with high school students around that, because I know it's an addiction. A lot of it is not even that they're calling or texting anyone. It's literally they need to get their scrolls in.
Do you see, Christy, of the heavy offenders, is it concentrated in certain grades, or it goes across?
No, I actually shared it because I shared some of this information at a faculty meeting. I was going over 1 or 2 data. One of the students that hit the 4th offense, is probably one of the sweetest students ever, has never had a referral in high school or in middle school. I went back and checked. And for that, that's a true addiction, right? That like just needing to like check out the phone real quick. So it's been contact with that family and saying like, hey, what can we do? Did you know that your child feels like they really need that fix during the day? You know, so what else can we do? Like we provided that student with earbuds. That's the other thing I think some of your teachers have, I don't know if you have. I bought 80 headphones because one of the things that the high school students miss the most is music. They want to listen to music. Nicole's like, yep. So as long as they have headphones that have wires to them, I mean, I have some, like I said, about 80 of them. There's some students that come and borrow them every single day. There's some students that'll keep them for a week. Sometimes teachers will come down and borrow a box of 15 or 20 for their classes. Other students have just gone to the dollar store and have bought their own plugins for a year. Like, don't go and spend a whole lot of money. It's just for school purposes.
Help me understand, what is the issue with it being, whether it's for an earbud, that it's Bluetooth connected?
Because what's it connecting to? We have no proof of what it's connecting to, so 90% of the time it's connecting to their phone, which may be a way.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right, I understand.
They do connect to the computer and stuff, but
There's no
that's
check.
like a phone, like, so there's just that process, it's just easier to keep it clean.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Okay.
The students ask the same thing. It's like, well, how can I know what device you're connected to?
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
I guess it's more of an opinion question for you guys, or your answer. You figure most of the teachers are pretty consistent with whatever the vibe is, or following the procedure. I mean, you could be to the letter, or you could be lenient.
That's a question, Dave?
Yeah.
If you're asking, yeah, yes.
Well-
I think 99.9% of teachers are loving this, right? Like, because the onus is off them. It's not, previously, in our code of conduct, it was teacher to teacher. So if one teacher allowed it and the next teacher didn't, students had to like learn that quickly, right? And I know for a lot of teachers, it was a fight, put your phone away, put your phone away. So I think I know I appreciated it, and I know that I think the teachers appreciate that it's not just here too, it's across the state. So you can't argue with my cousin over in the next town over is able to use her phone during study hall. Well, really? Because in state mandate, it says that you can't. So I think it's made everything a little bit easier. I think it made a little bit more work for me, but I just write all the referrals because I want it to be consistent. So it might say, Dave had his phone out during such and such class, this is his first violation. And then that way, if it happens again, I know, oh, this is his second violation.
You write all the referrals.
For that, yep, for consistency purposes, knowing that it has to, that we have to report to the state at the end of the year. I've been busy.
And that was something we had kind of agreed to when we worked on the committee last year, talked about that, and or I think just again for consistency's sake, it just, many times it might be during a class, so, you know, the teachers moving along, and we've got to get a hold of the parents and let them know, and just,
Well, that makes me wonder though, on a referral, if I'm the teacher and I see James using his phone, procedurally, how do you find out the information from me?
Yeah.
If you're not in the room, you're not in all these rooms.
Nope, well,
You can't witness it.
I don't need all that extra information. You
Okay.
had your phone out, you had your earbuds in, you were texting with your smartwatch, or whatever the case may be. That's against what the code of conduct is, right? So the only thing, sometimes teachers will bring it down, sometimes teachers will call the main office, we'll run up there and grab the only thing that I ask my secretaries to do is that if somebody brings you a device, just write what period, obviously write the kid's name on the Post-it, write the period, and then the student's name, and then the period. So then I can say, you know, this happened during Mr. So-and-so's science class, and I'll put that in the referral, because then if I notice a pattern as well too, that it's happened twice in science class, then I know where the issue is, and then I put all the devices that come down to me in yonder pouches, just so that no one can ever say that, well, my phone walked away from Mrs. Morgan's office. It's in a yonder pouch, and I put that Post-it right, these little like plastic sleeves in there where you can shove in a kid's name.
Are the yonder pouches surviving? I mean, there's gotta be some that are gonna be
Oh, yeah, there's some YouTube videos that you can just go to them and yeah, how to open a yonder pouch. There's kids that are getting creative, but I think I've only had 3 that were damaged so far.
Yeah, I think one has been damaged. I mean, we also know, I mean, we've got some students who are not putting the phones away each day, but they're not out either. So, in the yonder pouch, you know, but it's, you know, we're by the doors in the morning, but it's tough to, we'd be here all day if we tried to check every kid in every morning to go through their bags and stuff. So,
You notice that the kids are not even bothering to bring their phones anymore?
some are,
Is it a trend?
Some, I think even some of the seniors that are only in school for 2 or 3 periods, they just leave their phones in their car. I can tell you this, they figured out ways to get around ordering like Dunkin' or something like that. They found an app that you can log in directly from your Chromebook, because at first there was a Dunkin' order that came through and I was like, oh, you were on your phone, and the kids were like, nope, you can get right to the website and order it from there, and I was like, okay. So there's a workaround for everything, right?
Well, Duncan's got to get their business in, right? So, I mean, we're in third quarter barely, but at this point, do you anticipate any changes needed to the policy, the code of conduct, et cetera, or is it working as is?
I feel like it's working. It's just some of those more reminders. I just have to be more aware of putting things on the announcements and asking Mrs. Wilbur to put them in her bulletin and just asking teachers like, hey, this was an unexpected long break. Because I think that was a lesson learned when we came back from that little bit of Regents break. Like that was a perfect time to remind students.
I wouldn't change it at this point. I think it's worked really well, and just, you know, we actually had a mid-year meeting with our younger representative too, and because they got this grades going well, so I wouldn't change it at this point at all. We're good going forward with it, and then we just have to, you know, again, keep revisiting it like we do when we look at code of conduct every year, so.
And my other question would be for the elementary school principal, because I know it's a little different down there, but have you had any issues at that level with phones at all? You'd be surprised.
Do you figure the yonder pouches are gonna be usable next year, or are we gonna have to
Yeah.
reorder?
I don't, if we do, maybe a handful.
What is the plan on there? You're gonna just,
We'll collect them at the end of the year, we'll collect their
really good.
Chromebooks, because we collect their Chromebooks or computers every year, and then we were talking about having them just put the yonder pouch right in the front pocket of check them in that way or whatever, so we'll collect them back, check them over, make sure they're all working right, and then, like I said, we had a lot of quite a few extras just in case this year, so I really don't think we'll be ordering them again.
How about cafeterias? Are they noisier?
Same as they've always been to me.
I wanted them to be
I got a
noisier.
question about her last year when she's like, cafeterias are quiet, I'm like, no, we're not.
No, but we did order some games that if so students wanted to play, and they're in a cabinet in the front. I think in the beginning of the year, a lot of the kids were taking advantage of playing the games, but even the past couple of years, there was always kids that brought in different, like the Uno Attack or Uno Madness, I don't know, there was some where you could like Uno Flip that you use either side. There were some kids that were bringing in cards like that anyways. But I do think that I haven't seen any of the kids really playing the games anymore, because I think they're actually doing a lot more socializing as well. They were just socializing differently. You'd walk in and there'd be a table of all boys playing, like, I don't know, one of their games against one another. So they're all talking about it, but all their heads were down. But now their heads are up.
Any other questions? Thank you. All right, now we have our second reading of updated policies 3160 and 3210. Any discussions regarding the display of flag or wellness? Okay.
I just have one. With regards to the flag at half-staff, how long do you want that to remain that way?
What's standard operating procedure, like in general?
It depends.
All right, I'm gonna put it out. What do people think?
I believe her funeral is this week on the 14th, so maybe you can just honor for at least for the week or during that time.
Okay, I'd be fine with that. Does everyone pretty much agree? Okay, would that work? Thank you, James, I appreciate it. So any other questions related to that? If not, I'm going to move this on to first reading then. Okay, so moving on to the first reading of updated policy 6420, which is the immunization policy. Any questions there? Okay, then I'm going to move us on to action items. So if I could have a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting from last month, January 12th, 2026.
Of Eric and Dave.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. If I could have a motion to approve the finance reports for the month ending January 31st, 2026.
Karen and Raya.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question for
Go
Todd.
for it.
On your budget transfers, Todd, on number 6, it's not a really question on the transfers, but more of a question on the transfer 2, right? When I go to salaries of K-3, is something changed there that wasn't in the budget?
I would have to look specifically for that amount. What it tends to be is when we budget salary codes, we do our best to estimate where everybody's going to be placed. And then when teachers actually, some teachers need to shift from one placement to another, that could change, has to go from one salary code to another. The other, which I'm thinking this probably is we have 2 times throughout the year where teachers have the ability to put in for in-service hours, and when they get to a certain point, they can move over a column. That we have, we don't know where that's going to happen.
They can move over to a different step in their salary schedule mid-year?
Correct. Happens 2 times throughout the year. So that also might put a salary code in the negative because everything that was budgeted in that code has been used, and now there's a need for additional. The other potential option, and sorry, I don't have the specific, I can go back and look for this.
No.
As we do more work with tutoring hours and using tutoring hours to support students, whether it's a student that's out for health reasons, it's a student that's out for disciplinary, that tends to be coded separately, but then there's also for response to intervention, providing tutoring hours to help students in their academics. The tutoring hours for RTI are coded into this area, into each one of these areas. So we have tutoring money budgeted, but if we use it up in one area and there's money somewhere else, I will do transfers to continue that tutoring to keep happening. So likely one of those areas.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
If I could have a motion to accept the Committee on Special Education recommendations.
Eric and Kelly.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
If I could have a motion to approve the personnel agenda.
Dave and Eric.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, if I could have a motion to approve the resolution dated February 9th for the Board of Education of the Greenville Central School District, authorizing a proposition to be presented to the voters at the annual district meeting.
Eric. Karen.
Okay, any discussion?
How many buses is this for?
So this is for 6 buses, 2 small buses, 3 full-size regular buses, and 1 full-size bus with compartments for storage/luggage. 6 is the short answer.
Do we have one of those buses already? A tour bus?
A compartment bus?
Yeah.
We do. It may be that that one's aging out
Okay.
because it's replacing it.
That wasn't heard of. Wow. What do we use that for?
Tends to be for field trips that, especially, yeah, if it's an athletic trip that really has a lot of stuff going, or if it's a music trip and a lot of kids are bringing larger instruments. FFA has also been known to get that bus if it works out.
I had a thought of, in these items, Tom was telling me earlier that these items are listed in the what do we refer to that as? It's in my email, the budget newsletter.
So in the budget newsletter and other supporting documents that we put out, we will reference this amount is being used for this purpose.
Right.
Correct.
So I didn't know if you guys thought it made sense to list any of these specifics in the proposition for the public when they're seeing that number and they're voting, should be itemize anything in any way so they know what they're getting for their money, even though they can refer to it. That might limit us then as far as it's too specific now if something changes. So I just wanted to put it out there to see.
Correct. You are correct. So this is, the resolutions like this are actually worded by our attorneys for this purpose, like what's going to allow us the greatest flexibility, but also meet the requirements of the law. So this is worded in a way that we have a good replacement plan. Mary Judicus, our transportation supervisor, is amazing at organizing all of this. So we have a plan of what we think we plan to purchase in 26, 27. But if we were to put in the resolution specific language, like I just mentioned, this is for 2 small buses, 3 large buses, 1 bus. If we put that in there, then that locks us into that specifically. If we, I don't know what the scenario would be, but it happens that that compartment bus is not available and we can't buy one, and now we have to buy something different in its place, we wouldn't be able to do that because we would be locked in. So the way we've gotten around that, to your point, James, like we want people to know what this is specifically for, is we put it in those other supporting documents as a reference, like, hey, you're voting on this, this is what it's actually getting in the district.
I guess we just got to keep telling people to check out the supporting documents. That all makes sense.
And I believe it is covered in the budget newsletter that goes out.
Yes.
and
Yes.
so forth. So that would be an excellent time to remind people, hey, this is what we're getting while we're setting the money aside and so forth. But I think that I would not want to be in a situation where because of some change, we would have to wait to go out for another vote to be able to maximize it for that. Any other comments or questions that people have? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the library resolution to be placed on the ballot for the annual vote and election on May 19th, 2026.
Erica Mariah?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the tuition rates for the 25-26 school year.
Kelly? Eric?
Any discussion?
Actually, I had a thought. I think this is a town question. I was just looking at that. It seemed like, at least looking at the budget, the bigger budget for the school that we're looking at and the estimated increases, it seems like those are really big increases, like a 15 to 20% increase for the estimated new costs from the prior year.
Do you mean the tuition rates themselves?
Yeah.
So those actually.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I just quickly.
The percentage rate is not on there, I'd have to calculate it, but these rates actually come from the state. We're provided these rates from the state. These rates are used if we have a foster student that actually their home district is another district, but they're placed in foster care with parents in our district and they come to our district, we bill back the home district for that student.
So that's the number we're allowed to bill back.
Correct, exactly. That's what these rates are
And
used
vice
for.
versa.
And vice versa, exactly. So this happens with our neighboring districts, office, Coxsackie, Caro, Catskill. They have rates also set by the state so that if we have a foster student attending their school, they bill us back for that.
So what would the purpose of us voting on this be? What are we actually voting on, approving?
We are authorizing these rates, so the fact that it is increasing and that these will be the rates that will be chosen, or these will be the rates that will be used. It is by the state, but it's a fairly complicated formula that I'm sure Todd would love to sit down and show you for that. And it takes a look at percentage of special ed students and what the teacher salaries are associated with it. I mean, I've seen the formula for that. So
It's not really something we have much of a choice to change. It's just we have to decide yay or nay.
Correct. This basically gives my office the authority to bill the other districts this rate, so that we're able to point back to, we can just
Make something.
make something up, like, no, if you've been approved by our board to use this rate, yes, it's set by the state. So it gives my office the authority to then bill back to the
Okay,
other district.
gotcha, that makes sense.
Right.
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
if we weren't to approve it, then we would not be able to bill. I mean, that would be the downside for that. So even if I have one student, I still would like to be able to use those funds.
Yes.
Now, just one additional clarifying point. So we do have other students that come to our district, so specifically special ed students. We have a variety of self-contained programs that neighboring districts can send their students to those programs. Those rates are set specifically by us as a district, does not get connected to these rates. So those rates are specifically based on the staff, the resources that we as a district pay for those programs on campus. We can then use a formula locally to determine what we pay for a student to be in that program and charge back those other districts. So just clarification, because sometimes tuition rate is thrown around, different rates for different things.
And is this only for foster students? Is there any other category that would fall into this that you can think of? And that's the only one that comes to my mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
foster students are the one. There may be other scenarios, but that's.
Okay, all right.
If you had a student at a district that wanted to come to Greenville, someone in Carroll.
That's against policy.
Against policy.
Mhm.
Huh, okay. Against policy. Is it some, so I feel like it happens.
There was a
Like-
decision a decade ago in which the policy was changed so that it was not an option.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's that district by district.
Okay,
So there may be other districts around us that is a possibility that their policy in their district allows it.
okay,
That is a local decision.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the health and welfare services contract between the Greenville Central School District and the Bethlehem Central School District for the 25-26 school year in the amount of $3,495.
Kelly?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the joint defense agreement between the Greenville Central School District, the town of Westerlo, its assessor, and Board of Assessment Review, the town of Coinmans, its assessor and Board of Assessment Review, and the Ravenna-Coinman-Selkirk Central School District in joint defensive proceedings commenced by the Albany Water Board.
Dave, Eric?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the auditor's report for June 30th, 2025 by Benadio, Certified Public Accountants. This is a single audit federal program.
Eric? Dave?
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have several policies. The policy committee has been very busy. I need a motion to approve policies 6140, 5140, 4180, 6145, and 6430 with a listing of what they correspond to below.
Kelly? Eric?
Any discussion on these policies? All in favor? Aye. All right, moving on to topics for discussion at a future meeting. Does anyone have anything that they would like to add? Dave?
I do, two things. I wonder if we could discuss, to help us be a little more expedient with this. I'm not familiar with the field trip steps that they had to go through. So Mike, can you give us a brief description of what, because I guess it was the advisor that was speaking here on the side, turned down before they got to us. So I wondered what, I don't care what those trips were about, but I wonder what steps they got to that was the roadblock. And then the other thing was, I was with some other education folks, and they were talking about this program that I'm wondering if Mike is aware of it, or Christy, or Brian, or even Matt, Melissa. The program's called Securely, and there's other ones. And it's, when I first heard it described to me, I thought, well, it's, you know, it's kind of, you're managing students, period. And in reality, it's more of you're managing their behaviors. And we don't have a problem with students, but sometimes their behaviors are what we're interested in. So I wonder if we could get a proposal. I can give you a brief synopsis of what this securely is all about, but it's, it helps the students and it helps the teachers, and the whole school-wide, as far as where the students are at any given time, basically. And also manages the number of absences they have, manages the number of times they've been out during the day or during a class period, and then also can manage if I'm not supposed to be in the same spot that Eric is. We won't allow that to happen if it's used correctly. So I was wondering if we could get some kind of presentation on a system like that. The other thing that made me remember was, and I know Greenville used it too, is back in the day we used agenda books before technology really was a thing. And you know, agenda books were, if you had a regular student that, you know, that didn't need that extra help, they could just use their agenda book on their own and write down their assignments and use it as a pass book. There was pass sheets in the back, and if you had to go to the bathroom with a nurse, you use that as a pass book. And you carry your agenda book all around. And then, you know, it was also used for, the teachers had the ability, in the agenda book, you know, if Tracy came up to me and said, well, I need to go to the bathroom when I was the teacher, I could look at the agenda book and say, Tracy, you just went to the bathroom in Mr. Bushy's classroom last period. I mean, what's going on? Or you went to the nurse, and you're going to the nurse constantly. So again, it's not the student, but it's sometimes their behaviors that we're interested in. So these more technology programs they're based on their Chromebook. So everything's centered around their Chromebook. So the one thing is, as I thought was, geez, you'd have to have your Chromebook and you have to have a charge if you want to do any kind of movement around the building. I see it as a system that takes a lot of the humans out of and their variabilities out of the equation. And it also helps some humans see a little bit clearer picture of what may or may not be going on. So I don't know if you guys you want to check into it yourself. Another one is called Hall Pass, and you can briefly read about these programs. And then if we want to have a presentation, I guess that's the best way to do it. If we want to have some information about it, but it will be a budgetary consideration.
I think, so the senior class trip and kind of really understanding kind of the elements behind it, that's one presentation. The second one is securely hall pass. Those are two separate things?
Two separate programs.
Okay, all right, for that. Any, I think you bring up a really good point with the senior class trip. I'm just personally, I love sending kids on trips. You know, they used to go to Disney with band and different things like that. So I know we do it for that. I want to understand better for that. Any other questions, topics for future consideration?
Not so much for future consideration at a meeting, although I will give an update next month, but Advocacy Day is at the Capitol on Wednesday this week. So I have a couple of meetings set up, and actually I'm bringing Todd with me, both as our business official, but also, I'm sorry, our assistant superintendent for business, but also as a neighboring district board member, because I think it'll be great to kind of bring some perspective from two neighboring districts up there. So if anybody else is floating around Albany and wants to join us on Wednesday, we do have meetings with a couple of our representatives.
Are they in the morning?
I have one at 10 and one at 1. And I'm waiting on a third. I don't know if I'll get it, but I'm trying.
Who?
10 o'clock, Chris Tague. 1 o'clock, Michelle Hinchy. And I'm waiting to hear from Senator Fahey.
I'm planning on going, so we should probably talk. We have to take
Sure
this
you're
up.
registered.
Yeah, I registered. I believe I did. Yeah. I may have to leave early, so I'm not sure that I can make the last one for that. All right, just a couple of reminders. Please add these to your agenda, whether that is a paper agenda or it's a digital agenda. Our next budget meeting is on the 23rd of February at 6 p.m. Then on the 25th, which is a Wednesday, please note this, we have the Board of Ed workshop. This is the mid-year analysis of the data dump, is also sometimes what we call it. On April 1st, we have the Questar annual meeting, and this is the one that's in Castleton. So it is not located here, and that starts generally about 5:30, although if you get there early, there are past hors d'oeuvres by the students who were part of the culinary program. It's a wonderful, I think, event in order to really see the different programs and the kids that participate in it. And this is also where Questar 3 will provide an overview and analysis of their budget and everything else. If you are interested in going, please contact Daphne and let her know immediate or as soon as possible so she can add us down to the RSVP list. We also have then on April 21st, then the budget vote. This one happens at the district office. And so just as a quick reminder, the April 1st is different from the April 21st one. Right? The April 1st is not a 5-minute meeting. And then please note that we have Relay for Life on June 6th. Right now, those are the different events that we have. But of course, before that, we will have in May our budget vote. Those are all the key dates that we have. If anyone has any other dates, please let Daphne know and we'll add it on. So closing open forum. Please note the same guidelines apply as stated during the first open forum. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Do we have any emails? No. Okay. Then I'm going to move us into executive session. If I could have a motion made to adjourn to executive session to discuss personnel matters concerning the employment of a particular person. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.